So this is how far I have gotten with the rear end. These are your low control arms. Obviously, the bottom of your shock, top of your shock, right? It's on a pillow ball. And I'll explain to you real quick. If this is the chassis plate, and this rear end is mounted here, right? And your vehicle squats, right? So it's momentum pushing down on it, arms raising up. Okay. If this is perfectly flat, this arm will travel straight up and down, correct? But because it's moving, the whole back end, dipping the rear, if it moves it back this way, this doesn't travel straight up and down anymore, right? It's actually traveling backwards. So for you to keep that arm traveling straight up and down, you can raise up this pivot point or this part of the bulkhead, which is in, the pivot point here. You can actually raise that up so that these arms still travel straight up and down. So anti-squat. You're taking the squat away, right? By not removing it 100%, but actually helping it by keeping it straight up and down. So it moves straight up and down, not backwards, right? That's what that is. That's one of the adjustments within this bulkhead. Then the other one is this screw here and this screw here has a small slot. And if I push this pivot point in and this pivot point out, that toes in the rear, right? So there you go. So now you can mess with toe on the fly. Very cool until you hit a wall and it moves it. So if you have a nice curb slapper or something like that, and your car's acting weird, that's probably the first thing I would look at, is these two pivot points here. Other than that, the gearing here, I think I've mentioned this in a different video, but if you wanted to change the internal drive, right, your gear ratio internally in the transmission, you can make this bigger, right? And then in turn, you have two holes for this shaft, for this idler gear here, where you can move that shaft. Obviously, the bigger gear, you would have to move it away from this one, which in turn, then you can swap the +3 or +2, sorry, to a 3, which then internally moves it forward or back. Boom. That's how you would do that. Other than that, a little bit of slop here is normal. It's on the same on all the YD2s that I've built, especially the SX3s. They all have that play. So I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, if you really wanted to worry, you could put a shim. You could shim this side of it so it holds the spur gear that way. Entirely up to you, whatever. I wouldn't worry about it. The sexy thing with this is that little idler gear shaft has a screw in it, right? But what locks it in place is this little piece of carbon fiber, which in turn then would host where your ESC would sit, right? Your electronic speed controller, ESC. I've heard ECM, I've heard all kinds of different abbreviations for it. Anyway, so that holds it, right? And then this anti-squat shaft here holds that together too. So it's locked up here and locked up here. And then obviously when you put your diff in, which is what this is, you undo these 4 screws, pull that out, your diff pops out. So that also locks the bottom end together. And then obviously the 4 holes you see there, right there, when you screw it to your chassis. So very sexy. very impressed. I really, really like what they have done. It's sexy as hell. It looks amazing. Does it work? I don't know yet. Stay tuned. Okay, so now I'm obviously doing, you know, the bearing carrier or the hub where the CVD would poke through. That would be attached to your arm with camber links. So that whole reassembly would be done really soon. So the one thing I did do a little different is the idler gear here. I took a piece of graphite that's also, it's a Yokomo part, and then I drilled and tapped it and put that in there. I don't know why, I just felt like it. Just because I can. How about that? All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. I'm not going to bore you with me sitting here screwing in every single screw and everything. What I am doing is I'm mismatching with purple and red. Here's the blacks. So I would just pour the black bag out and then make sure I have the same amount of anodized screws and stuff here. And that's what I'm doing. That's why my screws are all different colors and stuff. The only OG screw that I've used is to put the motor plate onto the bulkhead. Just one. And then the other two are purple and red. Anyway, like I said, thank you for watching. I would love to do more of these videos, but if I don't get the support, like, I don't know if you guys like this stuff. If there's only 6 of you liking it, you know, that's freaking awesome, but I'd like to have at least 500 of you guys liking this so that I can keep on doing this. Otherwise, you know, I'll just throw it on Instagram and on Facebook. Anyway, peace.